Okay, I'm going to be rounding up week 4, the last week of this challenge. And let's see what were the last films that I watched. So this week I've reached 30 films in 30 days. Okay, technically not 30 days, just less than 30 days, but still, I've watched 30 films within 30 days. Let's round up the last few. So I started off the week with like a big high and a big film. And this is IMDb's top film of all time. It is at the top of the 250 list. It is a big film. It is probably the greatest film ever made, and that is The Shawshank Redemption. Now, this film had like an incredible message, and it was very powerful. Of course, the acting was incredible. Everything about it was great. I, of course, ranked it 5 stars, and it is one of those kind of crime films, those thriller films, these crime-based films that I'm not really a big fan of crime films because I feel like they're always kind of all violence and is gratuitous and it's kind of glamorizing this life, but that definitely wasn't, and it was instead kind of showing the experience of people incarcerated and how hope can help them find purpose and help them stay alive. Yes, it was just such a beautiful film. I would definitely be watching it again. It is 5 stars for me, and it is hearted as well because it's definitely a film I will rewatch. I would highly recommend everyone to watch it, and I think it is way better than anything like The Godfather. I then watched 2 films in one day. I watched Reservoir Dogs at first, which wasn't my favourite movie at all. It was interesting. I didn't find myself enjoying it. I thought it was too much. I thought it was just aggressive. And I understood, I'm not really a big fan of Tarantino. That's what I've worked out from this whole process. I understand the art that goes on behind the movies, and I think he's an incredible filmmaker, but I'm not really sure if I like what he makes films about. But then I watched something that I did really enjoy, which was Interstellar. Now, this was a film, this is like one of the top films on Letterboxd's list. I think it is the top film, ranked by kind of fans. They have like this official top 250 list, and Interstellar is at the top, if not at least on the top row. Yes, I did enjoy this. I saw why it was very well liked. It's very well made. It's beautiful. Of course, it's well acted and everything, but it's just aesthetically and how it's made is just incredible, and I have a lot of respect for Christopher Nolan, and I definitely see why that is like one of his great films and one of the great films of all time. I watched The Shining, which was great. It was great. I understood like the whole hype. I was very terrified the whole way through. I thought I was going to have a heart attack. It was this horror of man being violent towards women and children, and I don't know if that was the intended meaning, but I definitely saw kind of the way he acted wasn't just because he'd been driven mad by where he was and this solitude. It was the fact that this was kind of always underlying. It was a great movie. It was so well made, so well constructed, and Stanley Kubrick is truly an incredible filmmaker, so I'll be watching more of his movies, and I really rate this high. On the last day of this week, on Sunday, I watched my last 2 films, and it was kind of a roller coaster of a day because I started off with Taxi Driver, and now I really kind of admire the creative nature that went into this and the actual filmmaking. I can really admire that. The story itself I didn't really like, and this aspect of, I feel like it is another film where like violence is glorified and the actions of the kind of hero are not actions that we should be kind of supporting and encouraging. But obviously it could also be argued that this film is from like the mind of the main character and that he believes he's this big hero and he saved this girl's life. I rated Taxi Driver the lowest out of all the films I've watched, and I rated it 3 stars. So it definitely wasn't one of my favourites, but I definitely see the art within it. Anyway, my last film I did enjoy more, and it's still kind of on the theme of violence and crime. This film, I mainly liked it because it was just so like engaging, and the way it was made, it was so cool. It was unique. It was very engaging, the fact that a lot of this was from this perspective of the main character. I don't know, I really enjoyed the way it was put together, constructed. It was fun. But yes, and I also, as an audience member, I could catch on to elements and start theorising during watching it. I was theorising during watching it, and I called the ending. So, yep, I knew what was going to happen, and that's exactly what I put in my review. The whole way that it was kind of constructed makes it something I really enjoyed. It was really engaging and an entertaining watch. But if you have to at least acknowledge that is not the way that people should act, and I don't think the filmmaker was trying to encourage people to start fighting each other and start like what is necessarily kind of a cult. It felt like a cult, but it was a fun watch. However, that is the end of 4 weeks of watching films that before I couldn't get myself to watch. I was forcing myself to watch these films, but I did enjoy them. There's been some ups, there's been some downs. A lot of them have been 5-star films because they are like some of the greatest films of all time. But there's also been some films that, even though people would say they're great films, for me, I would be like, no, I don't agree. Anyway, I will conclude everything I've learnt from this process, watching films, studying film, and talking to people who know about film, and that will all come in my conclusion very soon. But we have got through it, we have persevered, we've got through it, we've watched 30 films, and it has been an experience to say the least. I feel like I have gained quite a lot from watching these films. At least I can say that I have watched Pretty Woman and The Godfather and Pulp Fiction, which I used to say, no, I have not watched these. But I've also watched stuff like 2001: A Space Odyssey, which I really enjoyed, and The Shining, and Interstellar, and Fight Club, and The Shawshank Redemption, the best film ever made. So I'm really glad that at least I can say that to people. I've also been discussing film with the people in my life a lot more because they know that I've been doing this whole challenge and they've been really interested, and we've talked about the films I've watched and we've shared opinions. Yeah, it's been really fun, and I've been able to share my love of films with the people around me, and that is one of the biggest takeaways from me. I will now conclude this all.